how to know if you have hidden pathogens in your body and if that is the root of complex chronic illness. What do I mean by complex chronic illness? Well, a lot of folks have exhaustion, fatigue, body pains, inflammation, trouble sleeping, brain fog, right? And that usually comes with like digestive trouble, anxiety, depression, mood, libido. All this stuff can be affected, and it's multi-systematic, meaning that it affects multiple body systems. It's not easy to figure out. Most doctors call these like head scratcher conditions, and they give out diagnoses like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. Now we have long haulers, right? Sometimes, depending on the physician you see, you might get a diagnosis of Lyme disease or mold toxicity, reactivated Epstein-Barr. There's a ton of them, okay? Any autoimmune condition is going to fall into this, like the Hashimoto's and rheumatoid arthritis and these types of things too. Very, very complex conditions because there's a lot of moving parts, because our body is a system, right? Our body is a system of many, many other smaller systems. So you've got to have systems thinking to really understand these things. One of the things that most people really enjoy learning about, meaning it makes a difference for them when they're kind of struggling with their own health, is this fact that hidden pathogens get in our bodies and oftentimes are one of the roots. I say one of the main roots of all these symptoms and all these symptom pictures. So how do we tell? How do we know? How do I know if I have hidden pathogens in my body, right? They hide. That's their nature. So we have to have some very smart tools to find them. My name is Jeremy, Modern Vitality, and I know I may look more like a MMA fighter or something than a health professional, but I promise you, we have an awesome group of people who are all recovering their health, and it's international, and it's just a lovely place to be. And we work on taking complex chronic health conditions and taking them apart very systematically and then moving body system by body system so that you can start to regain your health and your vitality. If you like these kinds of videos, you may as well subscribe to the channel, right? What that does is it trains the algorithm to show you things that are going to help you with your life, okay? Versus just like getting fed whatever YouTube wants to show you. And if you want to go further, if you'd like to join these conversations, have access to me, ask me anything you like, we do have a group. It's a free group, it's a chat group, and we're off of big tech. We keep a private group, and you can find the link for that. There may be a bit of a wait, right? But I'll get you in as soon as I can. So when we start to look for, how do I know if I have hidden pathogens in my body, right? Well, one obvious way is testing, okay? Testing, right? Which means they look at your blood or whatever, and they're looking for one specific pathogen to try to see if you have it. Now, anybody with a Lyme-like presentation could tell you that sometimes testing, while it sounds fantastic, right? In reality, you can get false positives, you can get false negatives. It's like, oh, only on the third test did I find out I actually had Lyme. And even then it was a little bit, right, a little uncertain, depending on the types of tests they use. So testing, while it sounds like the bulletproof strategy, right? Well, test for them, obviously, test for the pathogens. There's two problems, right? One is that these suckers like to hide, okay? So they can be hard to find when you test for them. Meaning they, like Lyme spirochetes can hide, like the Borrelia can be in your tooth, and who's looking in there? Okay, so if they're dormant or if they're hiding, you're not going to find them on the test. And then two, the other problem with testing is that you only find what you're looking for. So if you have a certain list of pathogens that you want to check for, and you make your list, you check it twice, you look in the body and see if they're there, right? You have your list, and you may be able to find out that, no, we can't find any of these. And then you think you're all clear, but it turns out that the pathogens that we know about is just a small fraction of the diversity of pathogenic organisms on the planet. How do we know this? Well, have you ever heard of a novel pathogen, right? A novel virus coming, or a novel, these things evolve. Superbugs, it's nature, right? It's survival of the fittest. These things are constantly changing. So two problems, right, with actually specifically testing is that we have to know what we're looking for one, and a lot of times we don't know what we could be looking for. And then for two, we have to actually be able to find it, and we have to be able to rule it out. So there's this old saying that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, meaning if you don't have proof the thing's there, that doesn't prove it's not there, okay? And most of the people that I meet, that I work with, they've got some hidden pathogens, right? That's how they wind up on Google, on YouTube, on forums, right? Trying to, they've exhausted like every medical resource they can. They've been to natural practitioners, they've been frustrated there. The conventional systems kind of put them in a box or told them they're crazy. You're not crazy, by the way, like for the most part, it's for most people, it's not like you just made this up, it's a real thing. It's just really hard to find these suckers, right? So If you have any of these symptoms, right, like long-standing fatigue and exhaustion, brain fog, right, especially anything neuro where you're like, even little tremors and twitches and stuff, coming up where it's like, oh, we don't know why you have that. Well, we may want to consider that there are hidden pathogens in there. Okay, anything like that. The chronic pains, if your body has a constant chronic low-grade inflammatory process, it's not just heating up for no reason. Your immune system's not dumb and just trying to go after you, right? It's smart. It's just hunting. It's hunting, right? There's something in there that's triggering it. A lot of autoimmune conditions too. It can be really frustrating. Why is my body attacking itself? Well, it's not, right? It's actually trying to protect you. It's just there's a lot of collateral damage, and because these pathogens are evolved to hide and adapt, okay, which is a whole other topic of conversation, right? Once you find them, what do you do about that? We'll get into that a little bit here. So when you look, like I'll use the analogy here of the forest, okay? When you go to look in the forest and you think, I want to see if there's animals here. Are there any animals? Well, you better have a list of animals, right? If you only know to look for chipmunks and deer and rabbits and squirrels and bears, right? Then you're going to miss all the birds. If I'm only testing for mammals, right? And there's a whole other category of things that I've never even thought to look for, you don't see them, right? Same thing with the body, okay? Well, we're testing for Epstein-Barr and we're testing for Candida and whatever else. Well, whatever's on your list, there's going to be stuff that's not on your list. So instead of trying to do that, right, another way is to go look in the forest and go, what animals do I see evidence of? What are some of the signs that I can see, right? Is there little holes in a tree from a woodpecker? Is there scraped up bark from where a bear came through? Are there deer tracks, right? You can start to see these little signs. You start to learn to read the forest. And there are some people that are really, really good at this. I know this was, culturally, I think most of us are moved away from more natural living, which is part of modern life, right? But there's a big revival of getting back out into nature and learning how to do tracking and things like that, and how to listen and interpret bird song. And I mean, there's a wild skill set that used to be part of just a cultural human heritage that's getting a little bit lost. And I would offer that same level of detail and insight when applied to the human body gives us a significant advantage when we go to practice medicine, to be able to read the signs of the body without having to come through with infrared vision and lab testing out the wazoo. Like, lab testing's good, it can help, but that's not the be all end all. We need to look for the signs of life. We need to look for the signs of hidden pathogens, and then we can start to infer that. If you go out into your front yard and you see a big pile of deer poop, it's a pretty good, you don't have to see the deer, right? Is there a deer? I don't know. I didn't see one. We couldn't get the test. The test was inconclusive, right? I'm not sure. Well, there's a bunch of deer poop. Pretty good odds there's a deer there, right? So when we see these conditions where it's like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, right? Long haulers, obviously there's a hidden pathogen there, obviously, right? When you start to see this, mycotoxicity, obviously, all these little low-grade inflammatory processes, you'll have hidden pathogens in your body. That's the sign, right? When you start to see, especially like cognitive neuro stuff, like I mentioned earlier, that's a big, huge sign, big sign. So you need to start to read those signs. Another one too is the tongue coating. This is great because I've got a strong Eastern medicine background. So if you stick your tongue out and look in the mirror, especially in the morning, and you want to see like, what's your tongue look like? And start to develop a relationship with that, which I teach, like the people in our group, we go through, they're always looking at their tongues now because they've learned it. Man, you can see so much on that and it's very up to date. But when you start practicing this, take a look at your tongue. What's the coating like? Is it thick? Is it real greasy? Is it like cakey on there? Is there no coating? Is it white? Is it yellow? And guess what? Different types of pathogens will create different types of gunk in your system, especially your digestive tract, because we have this rich, right? They talk about the microbiome, right? Of all this bacteria, viruses, fungi, all these things that live in our intestinal tract. And that is a tube that goes all the way up to your mouth. And this film will develop, so biofilm, right, on your tongue. And that can start to tell you some of what types of pathogens you have once you understand how to analyze that. And I'm not saying it'll tell you, oh, you have Borrelia burgdorferi. Like, it's not that, but it will tell you if they like a hotter or cold environment, which we'll get to. Why is that important? Okay, because let's say you find out you have pathogens, or we can assume you do because you've seen the evidence of it, right? Just like deer poop piled up in your yard. And now you have that understanding and you're moving forward. Going, okay, Jeremy, I think I have hidden pathogens, or I know I do, right? What should I do? Because that's, sometimes people say, well, I've tested positive for Lyme or reactivated Epstein-Barr, or I know I've got mold injury. I know I've got mold illness, right? And these are like the top 3. There's plenty more of these things. Well, what gets really interesting is that these pathogens don't tend to come by themselves. So what usually happens is like a pile-on. So yeah, you may have Lyme, right? But that does certain things to your system that makes you susceptible to other things coming in. Same thing with mold exposure, having the mycotoxins in there. It's going to change your gut bacteria so that now you have a higher likelihood of dysbiosis, where you've got bad bacteria coming in. It's easier for them to move in. There's this whole thing. It's an ecosystem. Our body's an ecosystem. Okay, and this is really important to understand. So, okay, Jeremy, I know I've got a pathogen, hidden pathogen, probably a bunch, right? They're probably all piling on because that's how things work, right? So what do I do? What do I do about it? Well, the obvious thing is kill it, right? Kill it. You want to take antiviral, antibacterial, right? Anti-mycotoxin, right? You want to bind them, get them out. Like, do this stuff. Sure. Yes. Okay. Antifungals, right? It's a part. It's part of it. And of course, I'm not giving you medical advice, right? I'm offering a larger perspective here. That's part of it. And I would offer you that those types of strategies are usually some of the first things people try because it's obvious. So by the time somebody comes into my world, like in our international group, I got people from all over the planet, especially like Europe, North America, like we're pretty heavy there. Most of the people in the Western world are exposed to like alternative therapies, some functional medicine, these detoxes and things like that, right? Not to mention our cultural conditioning of kill strategies, antibiotics, antivirals, right? Antifungals. So that's already happened usually for most people, and they're still not better. Frustrating, I know, right? What we usually do, the best way to do this is to look at those kill strategies as one part of a larger strategy. And I mentioned going system by system, right? Body system by body system, immune system, then digestive system, then neuroadrenals, right? That's where you handle the stress and stuff, like stage 3. You don't need to do that earlier. And then blood circulation. And then we have even a 5th stage, which is all about boosting and nourishing. You need to do that stuff in order. And within that, your very first attempt, right? Your very first lap around this process usually has some kill strategies in it. Antiviral, antibacterial, that kind of thing. Yet there are certain herbs that'll break down biofilms that make it easier for other herbs to get in, that'll stop viral replication and bacterial replication and things like that, right? Because this stuff, they live in like slime balls, these biofilm balls. You got to be able to get through their exterior. It's like warfare in there. Anyway, you want to have the kill strategies not be the main focus. I know this sounds crazy, right? Because I'm saying this whole video is about hidden pathogens and these invaders in your body that you don't want there, right? And how they hide. And we have ways to help kill them and help your immune system kill them. But that doesn't work by itself because your body's an ecosystem. Long term, the kill strategy is one piece, which needs to be in the right order, done sequentially with the right kind of support. It's one piece. It's maybe 20%, maybe less, of a strategy that's actually going to change your body's ecosystem. So what do I mean by ecosystem? Well, we feel like I'm just one person, right? This is me, I'm an individual. But it turns out we've got a ton of organisms living in us, right? Bacteria, all these things that are healthy and should be there. And just like we live on the planet Earth, and there are different temperatures and climate zones and different way, if you get, I grew up in upstate New York and it was shoveling a lot of snow. And as my parents hit a certain point in life, they said, we're done with this. We're going to move somewhere warm, right? You can change your environment. And different environments will have different types of people that want to live there, right? And it's the same thing in your body. If you have a warm environment in your body, it's too warm, or it's too cold, or it's too dry, or it's too damp, just like places to live, you're going to attract different types of microorganisms. And what I mentioned before about the tongue, looking at that tongue coat, you can start to tell, do these critters like it hot? Do they like it cold? Right? And then you can know how to do that, right? Now you can start to take techniques and skills and go, okay, I know how to read this. I'm going to reverse it. So they like it hot. I feel too hot. I'm inflamed as it is. I'm going to find ways to cool down. I'm going to find ways to modify my internal environment. Ooh, this is where natural medicine gets really cool, because now we're working on the terrain. We're working on the landscape. So mold, a lot of bacteria, a lot of fungi, a lot of these things, they like it damp, right? They like you damp. So you'll wind up with, here's another sign. How do I know I've got hidden pathogens? Well, are you having a lot of like fluid retention? Are you getting big puffy bags under your eyes? Anything like that? Soggy? Are you getting swollen around your legs? If you put your finger, like you take your socks off and it's indented, or you put your finger in your calf and that fingerprint still stays there for a minute. Like all that swelling, all that trouble with fluid accumulation, that's a big sign that they're trying to change. They're trying to terraform you. They're trying to change you into a very damp, moist place so that they can live there more happily. So we go the other way, right? So we have like one part killing, right? Get rid of the things that shouldn't be there, make life very hard for them. But the other part is to get your body systematically healthier and more robust so that they don't want to live there anyway. You become a less desirable host, which is very cool because now we're not looking at one thing and going, okay, it's this Lyme, it's this Borrelia, right? It's this one pathogen. It's this, oh, if I could just get rid of that Candida, right? It's not the Candida. I mean, it is, but it's not just the Candida, because now you want to get your whole environment changed so that not only Candida, but everything else that's going to bother you doesn't want to live with you, right? You just become less desirable of a host. You become inhospitable, which is pretty cool because you become healthier. And your immune system, once it doesn't have that burden, right, of having to deal with all that stuff, now your immune system can get to work actually repairing things, and that's how we get our progress. So yeah, you have to unblock yourself. You got to get some of these pathogen loads down, but that's why having like an integrative approach, and especially having logistical, like step 1, 2, 3, 4, like doing things in order, it takes all the overwhelm out of it because there is a lot to do. There's a lot of work to do, right? If you want to like repair your body, there's a lot of work to do. I can't sugarcoat that. It's not a straight line. It's absolutely not. There's going to be backslides. There's going to be triggers. There's going to be all that stuff. But of course, if you have a plan that accounts for that, it makes it a lot easier to manage when those things do happen. So if you have hidden pathogens, well, if you're watching this kind of video, odds are you probably do because you've seen the signs of it in your own life: fatigue, brain fog, malaise, right? Trouble sleeping, and just inflammatory, just inflamed, right? Chronic pains, all the weird stuff. You know it. You know what's going on. You know when your inflammatory processes are going off. You just know. People tend to know, right? Tune into your intuition. So there's that. Of course, lab testing is helpful, right? But it's not the be-all, end-all because sometimes we don't see the deer, but we see the deer's poop. Or we don't know to even look for deer. They weren't on the list, but there's a bunch of deer poop, right? So something's in there, So it's the same idea. You look at the signs. Okay, there's all the cognitive stuff going on, brain fog and all that, fluid retention, funky tongue coat, right? Not always, but a lot of times you'll get a funky tongue coat. All these kinds of things are signs. They're clues. So once you have that in place, you go, okay, great. Now let's start using substances, right? Like herbs. There's different ways to do this. It doesn't have to be herbs. That's just where my bias is. Use some herbs to start to get the pathogen load down, and then you start to work on your internal landscape. You become the cultivator, right, of your internal ecosystem, which is really cool. And you can use herbs for that. You can start to learn how to use your foods for that. And I'm not just talking about restrictive diets. I'm talking about proactively learning Eastern nutrition and which types of foods will change your makeup in your body to make yourself more warm, more cool, help your fluids move better. There's a lot of stuff like that. You can start to use practices, self-care practices, some things that seem very simple, but once you start stacking them up, they become quite advanced. You can even learn specific breathing practices to start to change how's your blood working in your body, right? You can start to change how's the nitric oxide levels. What do your macrophages in your immune system, what do they have to use, right? How's the nitric oxide? Can they use that to start to stun pathogens? Really pretty cool. You can do a lot of that immunomodulation with the right kind of breathing. So if this type of stuff is interesting to you, if you've been struggling with a health condition, you don't have to do it alone. Okay. And you don't have to get inundated when you go on a support forum and there's like 10,000 different recommendations and all that. We keep it very, very simple. We've got an order of operations and we've got a lovely group of very positive people that are supportive and they're international. I would encourage you, if this kind of thing speaks to you, if it makes sense and feels right, you'll find the link. It's probably below this video, right? Where, you can find the link. There's a bit of an application, introduction form. And like I said, there may be a wait. I keep the group really cozy. And why I do that is because I want to be able to actually get to know the people in there so that I don't want 1 million people in the group because I won't have a relationship. I won't know what's going on with them. So I like to keep, it's around 100, 150, sometimes 200 people in the group max, which means we can fill up. And in that case, there's a bit of a wait, but I'll see your form and I'll get you in as soon as I can. In the meantime, you can subscribe to this channel and you'll see more videos like this. All right. Cheers.